last video, and amongst the things people are saying is, are we going to go to war using paganism and magic to fight? No, that's not what we do. Let me explain what we do. It's really quite simple, okay? We have been raised up with European bodies, European souls, European cognition, European consciousness, but we have been spiritually orientated towards the Middle East. All it requires is to uncouple yourself from that Middle Eastern deception to restore yourself back to a European pagan. Now, or an African pagan or a Native American pagan. Remember, like, African Americans have a huge part to play in all this. So do people of African ancestry in Britain and Ireland and Europe. You have your own religions, spiritual traditions as well. You have been sold the same thing to control you. Now, okay, it's really simple. First of all, you stop thinking in terms of presuppositions and psychological enforcements that have been drummed into you since you were a kid, okay? The most important thing of all is you forget congregationalism. And this is one of the things I'm going to talk about, why the establishment fears paganism. Well, they don't really fear it. They don't know what to do with it. And this is what gives us a great power. Now, the Ten Commandments don't apply to us. They don't. Because pagans have human decency. Therefore, they don't require morality. Morality is an imposed structure sent from religions to control you. That's why in the Ten Commandments, it's more of a sin or a crime to take the Lord's name in vain than it is to commit murder. Really think about that one. Where a pagan would know instinctually that murder is the worst thing you can do, except in self-defense. Now that's instantaneously a quick thing you can do, so stop thinking about that. Another one that you can do, and this is so important one, is to embrace nature. Now, one of the defining things about paganism, apart from the Abrahamic religion, is we have to stop getting out this notion that the planet is dying. This comes from a 3,000 or 4,000 years or a Bronze Age Semitic psychosis of having been cast out of paradise. I'm not cast out of paradise. I live in Ireland, one of the most beautiful countries in the world. Some of you live in America, stunning, Canada, Italy, Iberia, everywhere. Look around you, go to the countryside, go to a park in your cities that have beautiful and then flower arrangements and see happy children playing, and don't tell me that you have been cast out of paradise. No, we were always in paradise. We are in paradise. And this is the whole thing. This is why you have this Abrahamic mentality coming to things like climate change. The attitude is that the planet is dying. It's dying, so let it die, or let's pretend to do something to fix it, or let's, instead of planting trees, if there is a carbon overproduction thing, let's pay scientists and carbon sins, carbon penance, please Jehovah of the environmental world, please. I'm a secular scientist who doesn't believe in it, but I'm waiting for the revelation when the earth is destroyed by climate change. Oh my God. And then what they do is they go to Mars. They put this planet into the shitter because they don't think this planet is paradise. This is a barren wilderness. This is a barren wilderness to them, to the Abrahamic mindset. Cast out of paradise, so they're in a shithole. Subconsciously, this planet is a doomed shithole until they get back into paradise. But they'll never get back into paradise, so they may as well let this planet die. Right? And then, never mind, we'll go to Mars. It'll be just like Moses finding the promised land. You see how intensely brainwashed we are by this Middle Eastern thing? So communicate with nature. Extremely important. Venerate nature. Treat nature like a god and a goddess. See, take notice of nature. If you see a flight of birds, observe that flight of birds. If you see a butterfly on a plant, consciously meditate on that butterfly and that plant. Consider its relationship with the flowers. If you have a lawn, let it grow wild. Let it grow wild. I know there's laws in certain areas make it cut the lawns. That's also part of the barren wilderness that we're supposed to be in. Oh, the bees are all being wiped out. What's the best way to deal with bees and pollinating insects? Let your garden grow wild weeds. You can still have parts around your garden where you can have your formal plants and everything like that. Simple. Simple. No need for a climate crisis. No need for an environmental terror, a penance. No. Just understand that nature and you are the same thing. You're not been cast out of wilderness or paradise in the wilderness. You're in the paradise. You're here. You're here already. Those weeds that I tell you to hate, that's paradise. See what I'm saying? Another one is that this congregationalism, this idea of going to churchy stuff, we're seeing that with Nordic paganism now. They're building churches, they're building See, they want us in congregations because then they can make influencers of your heathen priest or your cosplay druid. You understand? They want you in you don't need a druid. You don't need a heathen cleric. You don't need that. Nature is that, okay? And that brings us to the next aspect of this. Rather than waiting for some people who are trying to make a quick buck off the Vikings TV show by building a heathen temple, you are surrounded by temples, groves and forests, sand dunes at beaches, rocky shorelines, woodlands, high mountain rivers, lakes. That's your temples. That's where your gods reside. And find a sacred place among these places and make that your own temple for you and the people you love. Don't tell anyone about it. Don't advertise it. Just be there. Find gods and goddesses that resonate with you and venerate them. Think about them. Read their mythologies. Read their stories. Look at the classical artwork of them. Think about, incorporate them. Fill yourself with polytheism. Every aspect of those gods and goddesses is an archetypal force of your consciousness and the cosmos. Glue both together. Not a psychopathic dictator in the sky who wants you to cut the tops off your children's penises. No. Fill yourself with that. Fill yourself with this idea that when you walk, when you see an owl, you're seeing the invocation of Athena. When you pass a fire, a sacred fire, you're seeing Vulcan. If you see a raven or a crow, you're seeing the Morrigan. You're seeing, and then you think about what it represents, and you think about aspects of it. If you live in a country where there are sacred sites, go to those sacred sites. Reclaim ruins of churches and abbeys. All over the world, wherever Henry VIII went, he tore down abbeys and churches. There's now weeds growing in, there's trees growing in them. These are now ours again. They have a special kind of beauty about them. And that's ultimately what a pagan is, beauty. Now, regarding the paganism as a form of insurgency, consciousness insurgency, rather than magical battles, right? They don't know what to do with us. This is why they invented Wicca. Wicca is essentially Kabbalism. Where does Kabbalism come from? Where paradise that you've been cast out of comes with all that baggage. Now, that's not to say that Kabbalism and Middle Eastern magic doesn't have power. It does. It absolutely does. But it's part of that process. It's part of that process. So what do? They want us in congregations. They want us in Wicca. This is why you see they're making a big deal of these witches. Have you seen that? Vogue magazine, all the TV channels. It seems to be in every country now, there's a celebrity witch. This is part of the bringing in the sheaves, bringing in the flock. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. Don't become part of the Christian flock. Don't become part of the Christian sheaves. You're not a farm animal. You are a beautiful, wild, autonomous soul. They don't know what to do with us. We're a real mystery to them. We bother them, but not to the point where they have a plan for us. And that's the great thing about us. Great thing about us, you know. When people, to this day, and that's another thing, learned a sense of humor. To this day, when I tell someone, who say a secular person, an atheist, what are you doing, a pagan, and I think they automatically associate that with Wicca, which is, as we know, ultimately an Abrahamic idea. And let's say something like, oh, you jump over fires naked, or you wear a pointy hat, and I go, yeah, I do, and I walk away. And learn a sense of humor. Because if there's one aspect of those fucking religions from the Middle East that they all have in common, is they don't have a sense of humor. That the demon Jehovah has no sense of humor, none. And just like any autocratic or anything like that, a sense of humor undermines that, because the ability to laugh at yourself and something else is the ability to have a flux, a transcendental relationship with reality, almost a surrealist relationship with reality. It's part of the metaphor, it's part of the archetypes, it's part of the allegory. We are not grey. We are a rainbow that's in between the black and the white. That's what we are. No matter where you come from, no matter what your ethnic background is, no matter where you live in the world, you will find that you are surrounded by the temples of your gods and your ancestors that require no pedophile priest, no radical mullah issuing fatwas, nothing. A tree will never judge you. Remember that.